I guess I've called myself an artist blacksmith, and I came upon that. I worked at a museum in Ontario for many years, and I was drawn to the blacksmith shop. I was a graphic artist and an illustrator there, but when school tours would come in, a blacksmith came in and they do demonstrations, and I just loved it in there. So I took a basic blacksmithing course, and I was already interested in sculpture. I'd done a sculpture and art school, of course, and I just fell in love with it. And so I became the blacksmith at the Grey County Owen Sound Museum, and I did that for a number of years until I came here, and I wanted to continue creating forms with steel. Plus, I wanted to learn to weld, and most of my forms come from things that I've seen or things that I've found, like snakes are actually snakes that I've seen. I guess the cobras, you don't see too many cobras in Canada, but I've seen lots of snakes, and I just love these lines, moving lines with a head on the end of it. And I've never seen two snake gestures that were ever the same. Things like chains. I find a lot of interesting forms in industrial things like chains and machines, and I guess from my museum background, all these things took a lot of design work from other people, and so somebody had to design the chain and figure out the machines that were going to make them. And then there's the guys that operated the machinery that took the ore and put it into the smelter and all that. So there's a whole lot of background to every single piece, and it's not just steel. The steel represents countless numbers of people. Some of the stuff I have found, a couple of the pieces in this show, in fact, are made of wrought iron, which is an old method of smelting iron, which isn't done anymore. And so I collect old iron that I find on the beach, mostly from old boats that have been abandoned, that were made in the late 1880s, maybe even earlier than that, and they still have big chunks of wrought iron, and it's basically pure iron. It doesn't have any mild steel, which is what most of my stuff is, and most steel things are made out of mild steel. It has a little bit of carbon in it. Wrought iron doesn't have any of that in it, and so it works a little bit differently, and it has a grain to it, and it's just kind of a historical thing, and I kind of like looking a little deeper into things, and I learned this at the museum to investigate, ideas and forms. I used to spend a lot of time looking at artifacts, not just steel, but wooden artifacts, and looking at how they were made and the principles used. There's mechanics involved and physics, and so it's all quite interesting. And I find these things everywhere. This show, I wanted to have a current running through it, because I see this current playing itself out in all facets of life, and not just my own, but everybody else's as well. And so I can't really articulate specifically how that came about and what the current is. It's just that I wanted it to have kind of this hidden flow to it. Well, being sculpture, there's only 3 plinths in the gallery, so I had to whack together these simple plinths to hold up my pieces. And just for fun, I cut up these branches that I found at the side of the road, and just to strengthen the middle of the box and to give it a little bit of organic texture. Also, it was an organic shape, and it sort of represented that current that I wanted to flow through. Well, I get in tonight, and those branches are budding, and there's leaves coming out on them. And I thought, I could have never planned that in a million years, and yet how perfect is that? And so this is the kind of thing that I like to see in forms, is this miracle magic thing, and I want to experience this all the time. It's just something that happened for this show, and it may never happen again, but just too perfect to be true. But it is true.